Hey guys, how's it going? TJ here with Dead History, and I'm here with good old Henry.
Hello.
And today's actually Super Bowl Sunday today that we're recording this, right, Henry?
Yes, it is.
Yep, we got the Bengals versus the Rams later on today.
Mm-hmm.
And after, you guys will see this video way after the fact. The game will be over for 4 or 5 days at that point.
Yeah.
So we hope that you guys enjoyed the big game. We hope that you had a lot of fun with family and friends, and you ate, lots of buffalo wings and chips and dips and pretzels and all that good stuff. So we hope you enjoyed Super Bowl Sunday. So here we go. We're ready for our next Vice Presidential Series installment, and today we're taking a look at who, Henry?
The 26th Vice President of the United States, CharlesWFairbanks.
He's right. You had to think about it for a second, huh? That's right. The 26th Vice President of the United States, Charles W. Fairbanks. Some cool things to tell you about Charles Fairbanks, but first, before we get into our 26th Vice President, Henry, what do the people need to do?
Hit subscribe down below, leave all your comments and questions, give us a thumbs up, and leave a like and hit the bell.
That's right, he got it all. That's right, hit subscribe down below, comments, questions, leave them, give us a thumbs up and a like, and of course, hit the little notification bell so you can be notified when we do release a new video. And Henry, tell the people, when is that?
Every single week.
Every single week, he's right. So here we go. Next Vice Presidential Series installment, Charles W. Fairbanks, the 26th Vice President, and this is
Dead History.
Dead History. Hey guys, TJ back with you, here with Henry.
Hello.
And yes, the man behind us is the 26th Vice President of the United States, Charles W. Fairbanks. And cool things about Charles W. Fairbanks? Well, first of all, he's actually I believe the third Vice President to be buried at the Crown Hill Cemetery in Indianapolis, Indiana. That huge, huge cemetery that I've told you guys about. He's buried there. Also, he was the vice president under who, Henry? What president?
Theodore Roosevelt.
That's right. He was the vice president under Theodore Roosevelt, Teddy Roosevelt. So some pretty cool things there. Also, Charles W. Fairbanks, he was also the vice presidential nominee and candidate in, I believe, the presidential election of 1916. So after he was vice president, and had his party been elected, he would have became the third vice president to actually be vice president under 2 different presidents. And he actually would have been the first one to do it non-consecutively. But he didn't win that 1916 presidential election. But we're going to tell you all about that. We're going to get into that during this series here. So, okay, let's see. They did the likes. They did the subscribes. They did the comments and questions, hopefully. Hopefully, they enjoyed Super Bowl Sunday, right?
Yes.
Henry, what do they got to go get now?
Go get the chips, go get the snacks, go get the dip for Super Bowl Sunday. Anything you want.
Anything you want. That's right. Go get it all. Go get those snacks and drinks. Because here we go. Vice Presidential Series installment. 26th Vice President. What's his name, Henry?
Charles Fairbanks.
Charles W. Fairbanks. Sit back, relax,
And enjoy.
and enjoy. Hey guys, TJ here with Dead History, and welcome to our next Vice Presidential Series installment as we're taking a look this week at our 26th Vice President of the United States, Charles Warren Fairbanks. That's right, Charles W. Fairbanks. He's our next one up. Of course, technically the next one up after Garrett Hobart is Teddy Roosevelt, but he became president, so we're not doing another series on Theodore Roosevelt. So we skip over him because he became president, and we move on to Theodore Roosevelt's vice president, Charles W. Fairbanks. So here we go. I am flying solo here this week, of course. Henry's not with me. He might make a special guest little vocal audio appearance. You never know with Henry. But overall, I will be flying solo for the audio. So without further ado, as they say, let's jump right in. But first, I do want to remind everyone that tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here in the United States, I know some of you watch us overseas in Europe and such, and in England, but tonight, 7 p.m. Eastern Time here in the U.S., I will be doing a special Zoom presentation for the Monmouth County Library, and it's all going to be all about the vice presidential grave sites. So yeah, it's going to be a really fun, probably a little bit over an hour long, about an hour and 15-minute long vice presidential grave site presentation. It's going to be live on Zoom. It is free. You have to register. I will be putting the link to it in all of my social media. So take a look on my Instagram and that sort of thing. I'll also put the link in the description of this video. So if you can join, please feel free. Watch. It should be a lot of fun. I will be taking questions, I'm sure, at the end. So it's going to be a lot of fun. 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time here in the U.S., New Jersey time. I will be doing a live Zoom presentation tonight, which is Thursday, February the 17th. So I hope you can join and take a watch and enjoy it there. So here we go now. Let's jump right in to this next Vice Presidential Series installment, looking at the 26th Vice President, Charles W. Fairbanks. Here we go. My name must not be considered for Vice President, and if it is presented, I wish it withdrawn. Please withdraw it. Charles Warren Fairbanks. In the summer of 1904, Senator Charles Warren Fairbanks wanted to be President of the United States. Many in 1900 had seen him as the natural successor to his good friend, President William McKinley. Now, however, it was not the fallen McKinley who occupied the White House, but Theodore Roosevelt, and the president appeared on his way to easy renomination at the 1904 Republican Convention. When members of the Republican Old Guard suggested Fairbanks for vice president, the senator saw an opportunity for advancement. After all, the second spot had led to the presidency for Roosevelt. It might do the same for him. The vice presidency might prove a good place from which to maneuver for the 1908 convention. And anything could happen with the impetuous Roosevelt in the White House. As Finley Peter Dunn's fictional character, Mr. Dooley, speculated, the way they got Senator Fairbanks to accept was by showing him a picture of our great and noble president trying to jump a horse over a 6-foot fence. Most of all, Roosevelt's prodigious shadow seemed a natural place for a man described by friends as a safe and popular politician to wait for his turn in the White House. If ever a man seemed destined to remain in the political shadows, it was Charles Warren Fairbanks. Youth. Charles Fairbanks was born on May 11th of 1852 in a modest log house in Ohio. His father, Lauriston Fairbanks, was a farmer and wagon maker who had moved from New York to go into business for himself. He became active in Union County as a member of the Agricultural Board, and his wife, Mary Adelaide Smith, was a local temperance advocate. As a moderately wealthy farmer, Fairbanks could afford to send his son Charles to college at Ohio Wesleyan. Charles excelled at his studies, graduating 8th out of 44 in the class of 1874. He continued his education at Cleveland Law College, taking only 6 months to complete his courses and pass the bar. On October 6th of 1874, Charles married Cornelia Cole and moved with her to Indianapolis, Indiana, where, with the help of an uncle, Charles took a position as attorney with the Chesapeake and Ohio Railroad system. Over the next decade, young Fairbanks built a sterling reputation as well as a personal fortune as a lawyer for numerous railroad interests in the Midwest. He specialized in dealing with bankrupt railroads, and he prosecuted strikers after the Indianapolis Railroad strike in 1877. These activities brought the young lawyer to the attention of Indiana's Republican Party. Leader of the Indiana Republicans. In 1884, Indiana's Republicans split in their support of presidential candidates, some favoring Walter Q. Gresham and others preferring Benjamin Harrison. The election of Harrison in 1888 seemingly jeopardized Fairbanks' prospects, since he had been active on behalf of the Gresham faction. Harrison's lackluster performance in the White House, however, followed by impressive Democratic victories in 1892, gave Fairbanks the opportunity to return to prominence in the state by helping to rebuild the party. The campaign of 1892 also brought him into contact with the governor of Ohio, William McKinley. The two men formed a friendship that lasted until McKinley's untimely death in 1901 and proved extremely beneficial to the careers of both men. Even though he held no office, Fairbanks managed to gain control of the Indiana Republican Party, primarily because of his wealth. He spent freely on campaigns and consistently urged party unity behind candidates at all levels. Persistent letter writing and encouragement endeared him to GOP office holders throughout the state, and he used his connections with the railroads to obtain passes for political allies. Perhaps most importantly, he secretly owned a majority interest in the state's largest newspaper, the Indianapolis News. By 1901, he had also purchased the major opposition daily, the Indianapolis Journal. Fairbanks' control of the press significantly promoted the Republican cause in Indiana. As leader of his state's Republican Party, Fairbanks stood in an excellent position to command the attention of the National Party. With the parties almost evenly balanced in the late 19th century, a small shift in the voting patterns of one of the more densely populated industrial states could win or lose a presidential election. Indiana was one of these vital states. In the 13 presidential elections from 1868 to 1916, 11 of the national tickets boasted a Hoosier candidate, usually running for vice president. Charles Fairbanks thus became an important man in Republican electoral considerations. When William McKinley ran for president in 1896, he made his friend Fairbanks a key player in his campaign strategy. Fairbanks ran McKinley's campaign in Indiana and delivered a united Hoosier delegation for McKinley at the Republican National Convention in St. Louis. As temporary chairman of that convention, Fairbanks uncharacteristically delivered a stirring keynote address in which he lambasted the Democrats and advocated the gold standard for currency. McKinley won the Republican nomination handily. then defeated Democrat William Jennings Bryan in the general election. Indiana, which he won by only about 18,000 votes, proved instrumental to his victory. On the state level, the Republicans also did well enough to regain control of the Indiana legislature, guaranteeing that they would determine that body's choice of a United States senator. Speculation naturally turned to Charles Fairbanks. The wealthy lawyer had assisted many of the Republican legislators during their campaigns. Now they could return the favor. With a little help from President McKinley, Fairbanks easily won election to his first political office. A senator with presidential ambitions. Fairbanks' Senate career proved competent, if unspectacular. He stuck to the party line and was well respected among his colleagues. As chairman of the Immigration Committee, he favored restricting immigration and requiring a literacy test before entry into the United States, both popular positions. When the Immigration Committee proved too contentious for his liking, Fairbanks moved to the chairmanship of the more agreeable Committee on Public Buildings and Grounds. Although he had originally opposed the pressure for war with Spain in 1898, he faithfully followed President McKinley's lead when war came. The president appointed him to the Joint High Commission to decide the U.S.-Canadian border, or boundary, I should say, in Alaska. No settlement was reached, but Fairbanks helped his own popularity by declaring, "I am opposed to the yielding of an inch of United States territory." The people of Alaska showed their appreciation by naming the city of Fairbanks in his honor. Perhaps Fairbanks' only controversial stand in the Senate was his support for the demands of black soldiers fighting in Cuba that they be commanded by black officers. Thanks to the senator's intervention, Indiana became the first state to accept this position as general policy for its militia units. Fairbanks' calm demeanor and safe Republican views made him very popular in the Senate. As a senator from a pivotal state and a consistent defender of the McKinley administration, Fairbanks emerged as a natural successor to McKinley. He certainly looked like a president, tall, approximately 6 feet 4 inches, dignified, always clad in a proper Prince Albert coat. In 1900, some conservatives, most notably Ohio Senator Mark Hanna, tried to maneuver Fairbanks into a vice presidential nomination. The conservative attempt to block the nomination of New York Governor Theodore Roosevelt ended in failure. But the mention of Fairbanks for vice president fueled the senator's already growing ambition. The Indianan turned down Hanna's offer for practical reasons and because he had set his sights higher. As one journalist put it, Fairbanks had dreams of the White House. He preferred to remain in the Senate until the real call came. Charles Fairbanks' political fortunes changed dramatically on September 6th of 1901 when President McKinley was assassinated while visiting the Pan American Exposition in Buffalo. He lost not only a friend, but also a political patron. Although McKinley's successor, Theodore Roosevelt, promised to continue the fallen president's policies, Fairbanks' close connection to the White House was severed. Beyond these personal considerations, the nation's political environment was about to change. partly in response to Roosevelt, in ways that would leave Fairbanks in the shadows. President Roosevelt brought a new glamour to the presidency. He dominated the news and shifted the national debate to new issues. None of these changes proved helpful to Fairbanks' presidential ambitions. Conditions were also changing in Indiana. In 1899, the state legislature had elected a young firebrand named Albert J. Beveridge to the Senate. The new junior senator from Indiana was a powerful orator who shot to prominence by advocating a policy of overseas expansion for the United States. His growing power in Indiana represented a challenge to Fairbanks. The threat became increasingly severe as Beveridge gradually broke away from the party's old guard and began siding with the insurgents in calling for greater regulation of railroads and business trusts. No longer merely over party power, the battle had come also to concern policies. To make matters worse for Fairbanks, President Roosevelt quite obviously preferred the counsel of Senator Beveridge. This smoldering conflict erupted in 1901 when a federal judgeship became available in Indiana. Beveridge recommended an old friend, Francis Baker, whom Fairbanks adamantly refused to endorse. The squabble became public and was widely seen as a test of prestige within the state. Because this type of patronage could crucially affect a politician's ability to accumulate and wield power, the dispute had serious repercussions for Fairbanks. When Roosevelt nominated Baker, apparently without much concern for the prerogatives of the senior senator, there was little question which of Indiana's senators had the favor of the White House. So, guys, to be honest with you, there's not a whole lot more that I really want to cover regarding Fairbanks here in this part one. I am going to read over a couple things, but, it's the same type stuff that I just went over, really. Fairbanks was born in a log cabin near Unionville Center, Ohio, the son of Mary Adelaide Smith and Lauriston Monroe Fairbanks, a wagon maker. Fairbanks, in his youth, saw his family home used as a hiding place for runaway slaves. After attending country schools and working on a farm, Fairbanks attended Ohio Wesleyan University, where he graduated in 1872. While there, Fairbanks was co-editor of the school newspaper with Cornelia Cole, whom he married after both graduated from the school. Charles Fairbanks' first position was an agent of the Associated Press in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania, reporting on political rallies for Horace Greeley during the 1872 presidential election. He studied law in Pittsburgh before moving to Cleveland, Ohio, where he continued to work for the Associated Press while attending a semester at Cleveland Law School to complete his legal education. Fairbanks was admitted to the Ohio bar in 1874, and he moved to Indianapolis, Indiana. In 1875, he received his Master of Arts degree from Ohio Wesleyan. During his early years in Indiana, Fairbanks was paid $5,000 a year as a manager for the bankrupt Indianapolis, Bloomington, and Western Railroad. with the assistance of his uncle, Charles W. Smith, whose connections had helped him obtain the position, Fairbanks was able to become a railroad financier and served as counsel for millionaire Jay Gould. Prior to the 1888 Republican National Convention, federal judge Walter Q. Gresham sought Fairbanks' help in campaigning for the Republican nomination for U.S. President. When Benjamin Harrison won the nomination, Fairbanks supported him and made campaign speeches on his behalf. Afterwards, Fairbanks began to take an even greater interest in politics and made campaign speeches on Harrison's behalf again in the campaign of 1892. In 1893, Fairbanks was a candidate for the United States Senate, but Democrats controlled the state legislature and reelected incumbent Democrat David Turpie. In 1894, Fairbanks was the most visible organizer and speaker on behalf of Republicans in elections for the state legislature. He was credited with delivering Republican majorities to both the Indiana House of Representatives and Indiana Senate, ensuring that a Republican would be elected to succeed Daniel W. Voorhees in the United States Senate at the end of Voorhees' term in 1897. At the 1896 Republican National Convention, Fairbanks was both temporary chairman and keynote speaker, further raising his public profile. Fairbanks was the most likely Republican candidate for Voorhees' seat, and in January of 1897, Republican legislators formally chose him as their nominee. And on January 19th of 1897, Fairbanks was elected to the Senate, and he took his seat on March the 4th. During his 8 years in the U.S. Senate, Charles Fairbanks served as a key advisor to McKinley during the Spanish-American War and was also the chairman of the Committee on Immigration and the Committee on Public Buildings and Grounds. In 1898, Fairbanks was appointed a member of the United States and British Joint High Commission, which met in Quebec City for the adjustment of Canadian questions, including the boundary dispute about Alaska. So kind of last thing here, guys, regarding Charles Fairbanks. Kind of stuff I've pretty much covered already, but Fairbanks was a native of Union County, Ohio, born on May 11th of 1852. One of the few politicians who could truthfully say that he had been born in a log cabin. The house was owned by his farmer father, Lauriston Monroe Fairbanks. According to the younger Fairbanks, he absorbed his abiding interest in politics and political discussion from his father, a wagon maker and an abolitionist who often built Liberty wagons for political rallies and parades held at the county seat. During his youth, Fairbanks displayed the same quiet, steady character that marked his subsequent career in law and politics, a demeanor that won for him the unflattering nicknames the Indiana Icicle and Senator Icebanks. In a 1904 campaign biography for the GOP vice presidential candidate, Fairbanks' uncle, William Henry Smith, said that although biographers often delight in relating exciting stories about their subjects' young lives, there were unfortunately few incidents connected with the boyhood life of Mr. Fairbanks that would interest the reader. He was not bad, as boys go, nor was he especially good. In a sketch prepared on his life for the Indiana State Library in Indianapolis, Fairbanks said of his early days that he was an active young farmer with a predominating love of books. At the age of 15, Fairbanks entered Ohio Wesleyan University, a small Methodist institution located in Delaware, Ohio. Although he worked his way through school, the Ohio farm boy still found time to serve as one of the 3 editors for the campus newspaper, the Western Collegian. Reminiscing about his college days with a newspaper reporter, Fairbanks noted that he and his roommate subsisted on a diet of mush and milk and boiled potatoes with an occasional dish of stewed dried apples. Graduating with honors in 1872, he ranked 8th in a class of 44 students. His uncle, William Henry Smith, Western AP General Manager, offered Fairbanks a job as a reporter for the Associated Press in Pittsburgh. After a year in Pittsburgh, the young reporter received a transfer to the news service's Cleveland office. While in that city, Fairbanks attended law school for 6 months, receiving a degree from the Cleveland Law College on July 10th of 1874. In the fall of 1874, Fairbanks took 2 important steps in his life. On October 6th, he married Cornelia Cole, a fellow editor on his college newspaper and daughter of Judge P.B. Cole of Marysville, Ohio, and he accepted an offer from another uncle, Charles Warren Smith, Chesapeake and Ohio Railroad System General Manager, to become claims attorney for the Indianapolis, Bloomington, and Western Railroad. The young couple moved to Indianapolis, and Fairbanks set out his shingle for a law career that saw him try only 1 criminal case. Instead, he turned his legal talent to working with railroads, becoming a general solicitor for the Ohio Southern and Dayton and Ironton Railroads, president and principal stockholder of the Terre Haute and Peoria Railroad, and director, general solicitor, and principal stockholder of the Cincinnati, Hamilton, and Dayton Railroad. During his days with these various railroad enterprises, Fairbanks amassed a considerable personal fortune, which he made with assistance from relatives who provided him with investment tips. His railroad ties not only made him rich, but also made Fairbanks popular with politicians and other public officials, especially because he regularly granted free passes on railroads in which he had a stake to these influential people. In 1888, Fairbanks, at the age of 36, entered the hurly-burly world of Hoosier politics as manager of his friend Judge Walter Q. Gresham's attempt to capture the Republican presidential nomination. Gresham's effort failed, and the nomination went to rival Indiana candidate Benjamin Harrison. Despite losing out to the former Civil War general, Fairbanks remained true to the GOP, campaigning energetically on Harrison's behalf during the general election, which Harrison won. Fairbanks' entrance onto the Hoosier political scene came at a time when Indiana played an important role in national politics. With both parties having almost equal strength in the state, the national organizations vied furiously to capture Indiana's 15 electoral votes in presidential elections. In an attempt to woo Indiana voters to their side, each party often placed Hoosiers on their tickets, earning for the state the designation as the Mother of Vice Presidents. And then it kind of goes on to talk about, his time, in Indiana politics. We've already kind of gone over that. I'll touch more on that again in part 2. But that's pretty much it, guys. That kind of does it for this part 1. Now, keep in mind, I have visited Charles Fairbanks' gravesite, of course, at the Crown Hill Cemetery in Indianapolis, Indiana. So you will see my pictures of that at the end of part 2 tomorrow. But as far as anything else, the sign of the house he lived in, the sign of his birthplace. All of those photos that I've used so far are stock photos that I found online. I have not visited those sites. So really, the only Fairbanks site that I have visited is his grave site. So therefore, there's not going to be any bonus footage here for part 1. And the only bonus footage tomorrow for part 2 will be that of his grave site. So that's pretty much going to do it. That's the young life, the early rise in politics and his interest in politics, and of course his law career of our 26th Vice President of the United States, Charles W. Fairbanks. Hope you enjoyed this look at his early life, and stay tuned. Of course, tomorrow we will be taking a look at his vice presidency, his legacy, and then, his death and, his gravesite and all that stuff of Charles Fairbanks. Thanks so much, guys, for all the support. Thank you for all you do. Thank you. Keep all the comments and questions coming. Really appreciate you guys so much. None of this is possible without all you guys, so thank you. And there you go. We will see you tomorrow for part 2. Thanks so much, guys. See you then.